There are a rare few in every generation whose work impacts not only their own industry, but it impacts the larger society. Our guest, he is redefining how technology interacts with patient care. Dr. Mahajan, a Padma Shri awardee and the founder of Mahajan Imaging. When I was researching you, your website prominently says your title as Chief Radiologist, which represents the title of a clinical leader, not director or chairman, something which denotes ownership. How do you manage to meet patients every day? What motivates you?
You don't need motivation. The easiest work for a doctor is in his own field. So for me, the easiest thing to do is radiology. You enjoy making that rare diagnosis. You enjoy talking to someone and alleviating the tension, the stress that a patient may have when you tell him all is normal. And that also gives a lot of satisfaction to any doctor, to any person. And that's why, though, I've been forced now to change the title from Chief Radiologist to Chairman.
At what point did you realize you are going to become an incredibly good radiologist?
I don't think I'm an incredibly good radiologist. Going higher up in life for success is not related to what you may have done. And that's been very true in my case. This was a fellowship in MRI. This gave me an opportunity to be in technologically most advanced field of medicine. The real beginning. So these were the early days and it was very, very exciting. Somehow between my wife and I, we felt that if we stay more than a year,
You won't be able to come back?
then we won't be able to come back. But I felt that I'm the only trained MRI person in the country. I'm going to forget everything. So दिमाग में आया कि अपना करना चाहिए. To think, मतलब X-ray ultrasound लगाना ही बहुत बड़ी बात थी. Here we are talking about MRI. And there's only one MRI as yet installed in the country. My father was principal in Hansraj Model School. So he talked to some of the parents. He spoke to them and one of them became ready.
And it was a very high capex thing.
Oh yes. It was 2.5 crores at that time.
Those days.
And we have to get a loan. Loan kaun dega? So we went to ICICI. Mr. Wagul was the chairman of ICICI Bank at that time. And by the end of it, he says, young man, I'm convinced we will give you the loan. This was a green light that we got. So if you say that, we did great and we achieved so much and this is what we did and this is how it happened and मैं tiger हूँ, मैंने ही सब कर लिया, ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता. You talk to most people and you talk to the biggest of businessmen. There will be incidents in life which something went wrong. That is what, when you look back 10 years later, that is what went right.
How does the holding company and various segments within the company look like?
In the year 99, we formed this company, Mahajan Imaging Private Limited, under which our current centers run. So we run 11 centers. 6 of our centers are standalone. Private hospitals. We are in Gangaram Hospital since 25 years. We are in Fortis Hospital at Vasant Kunj since 18 years. And we are in PSRI Hospital, running the radiology there since 8 years. We are also running a public-private partnership in Safdarjung Hospital, in the Sports Injury Center, since 14 years. So really, if you ask me, we straddle the entire healthcare delivery ecosystem with standalone diagnostics within private hospitals and diagnostics within public hospitals.
I also wanted to talk about the new initiatives that you are incubating, the AI stack which is going to make these machines smarter.
We started working with researchers and developers across the world and in India, helping them make AI algorithms. That's how we got into AI, which is called C.A.R.I.N.G, Center for Advanced Research in Imaging, Neurosciences and Genomics. Very good about it. There are hundreds of developers making AI algorithms, hundreds being developed, nothing being used in clinical practice. So that's when Vidur actually decided that let us become the middle layer to take AI from the bench to the clinic. It became a separate entity called Carpool.ai, built in India for the world.
What are some other new ideas that you are incubating as a part of C.A.R.I.N.G, sir?
C.A.R.I.N.G on its part is into a lot of pure research, a lot of applied research. We work with IIT, we work with Bologna Institute, we work with Max Planck Institute in Europe, we work with MIT out of Cambridge, and they are using this data for something which I think humanity at large is going to benefit in many, many ways.
Hi viewers, I'm Vivek Sinha, the founder and CEO of Emversity, and I welcome you all to this healthcare-focused podcast series, The Prognosis. So the idea behind launching this podcast was to help create next generation of leaders for the healthcare industry. And we thought, what could be a better way to do this than let leaders of today groom leaders of tomorrow? So in each episode in the podcast, we'll be talking to a top CEO or an entrepreneur from the healthcare industry. So if you're an industry professional or a clinician or an entrepreneur building for the healthcare industry, then this podcast is for you. This podcast is brought to you by the Emversity team. We are a training and recruitment platform for the healthcare industry. We do two things in service of our mission, which is to address the global shortage of doctors, nurses, and allied healthcare workers. First, we run work-integrated degrees and diploma programs, which are curated along with the top healthcare companies and NACA plus universities. And second, we also run an online jobs marketplace called Resume with an RX. Now, Resume is a portal which is a 10 times smarter way of getting hired by a top healthcare company in India. All right, let's dive right in. There are a rare few in every generation whose work impacts not only their own industry, but it impacts the larger society. Our guest tonight is one such individual who transformed the medical imaging industry in India. But his contributions are not just limited to transforming the medical imaging industry and building a big outcome over there, but it's also about laying the foundations of future of healthcare. And now with his second generation, he is redefining how technology interacts with patient care. Joining us on the podcast today is Dr. Harsh Mahajan, a Padma Shri awardee and the founder of Mahajan Imaging. It's an honor to have you on the podcast today, sir.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
So we would love to understand about your story, your formative years, your early influences.
Well, I was born in Delhi, even though my father's family came from Batala, which is near Amritsar in Punjab, and mother's family came from Punjab in Pakistan, Sialkot.
Okay.
But I was born in Delhi and went to school here, went to DPS Mathura Road. That was the only DPS at that time. And after that, somehow I only wanted to be a doctor. So I didn't write the IIT entrance exams. I only wrote the medical entrance exams and joined Maulana Azad Medical College in Delhi. After that, life has its own ways of, or God has his own ways of changing the direction of one's life. And I was very interested in medicine, internal medicine,
Sure.
being a physician. And for that, went to PGI Chandigarh, which was actually my dream place for doing post-graduation MD. And during those years, for every subject that you are interested in, you had to write a separate entrance exam. It wasn't a common entrance exam. And so I, of course, filled the form for MD Medicine, but also filled the form for MD Radiology. Now, as much as I pressure my mind to recollect why I filled an MD Radiology, I'm not able to recollect. Must have been some incident at that time. Probably I would have read up about a CT scanner or an MRI. Those were the early days. And so I filled an MD Radiology also and wrote the exam. It used to be like a full day exam. And next day, all the people were called into a conference hall where on the stage you had 4 professors sitting and there was no list that was put up. Those who were qualified, their names were called. And when my name was called, I go up and they tell me, and there were 2 seats in medicine, 2 seats in radiology.
Wow.
So I go up and they tell me, you are first on waiting list in medicine and you are first in radiology. And they gave me 3-4 seconds to choose. Now, as luck would have it, uh, I chose radiology.
Because
Probably because
a bird at hand.
a bird in hand is better than one in the bush. And so that is how I, got into radiology, and it was a spur of the moment decision. And I tell people, and especially youngsters, it's becoming more and more competitive, that irrespective of what you want, do well in what you get. Don't fret. Don't be depressed that I wanted this, but I got only this MD, or I wanted to go to this institution, I didn't get it. Try to make the best of it, do the best that you can. And, at that time, we only had 2 or 3 professions. Either if you did well in class, you either became a doctor or an engineer,
Or an IS officer.
and later an IS officer, or you go do your chartered accountancy, or an MBA. Today there are so many avenues open that the choice is unlimited, and if you do well in whichever field either you've chosen or God gives you, there's no looking back.
So usually in a lot of cases, I see that there's an uninfluence, there's a role model which leads to students at young age gravitating towards medicine. So in your case, did you have somebody in the family who was a doctor or some role model?
No, actually, I had no one in the family who was a doctor. My parents were both teachers in schools, and by the time we grew up, my father was principal in a DAV public school. In fact, the first DAV public school, he was the founder of the first one. Today there are
many.
over 900 in the country. And my mother was principal of a government girls' school.
Okay.
And no one in the near family who could, be a role model. Somehow, and this goes for a lot of us doctors. It comes from within.
Sure.
That it is medicine you want to do, and that's what God was kind, and through the entrance exam I got Maulana Azad, and one of the finest institutions of India for medicine, and that's how it all started. Like I said, I didn't even write any engineering or IIT exams for entrance.
Great. So, how was the early childhood experience of being raised in a family with 2 educationists? What were some of the values that were inculcated in you early on as you were in the formative year?
See, we were a middle class family, both parents, teachers, and then rose to become principals. And, they had seen tough days, especially mother's family coming from Pakistan, leaving everything behind. So I think ethics, morals, hard work, education, these were things which were taken for granted, and you imbibed them. It is not something which had to be taught or told, or you didn't need to be disciplined. That is how the family was. That is what the atmosphere in the family was. And so these were things also we couldn't afford to waste.
Yeah.
So, today you see, so much of food wastage.
Yeah. Yeah.
हमारे तो कहते थे कि
Limited resources.
खत्म करो नहीं तो पेट से बांध देंगे.
Yeah.
That is what was. So the ethos was really of hard work, of doing well in class, of doing well academically. I was lucky. I was also in sports and debates and declamations, which is something which our school, DPS Mathura Road, which was one of the finest schools of the country at that time, inculcated in us. They encouraged that. And that's another thing. I feel that academic excellence is great, but being good in some other field, be it sports, be it academics, be it any extracurricular activity, debates, declamations, drama, music, that also gives you a certain kind of confidence, which ultimately helps you later in life. To be able to communicate well as a debater or, I was a debater. I think that's been very, very useful for me, maybe more useful than my academic credentials. And also, I've seen with my children, both of them were into music while they were in school and college, and that kept them away from some of the other activities, which may not be so good. And so, from the family, imbibing that, ethos and that, fact of working hard, trying to set goals, trying to achieve them, and being honest. And from the school, the other aspects of life, which were, I think, equally important and which have helped us become what we have become. In Hindi, we say sanskar.
Yeah.
So, sanskar from the home, which are imbibed, and sanskars also from the school, which have been, I think, which have made most of us what we are.
Amazing, amazing. Sir, on the topic of work ethic, you brought up work ethic. I couldn't help but notice that when I came to your office this morning, I saw you very busy with your patients. When I was researching you, your website prominently says your title as Chief Radiologist, which represents the title of a, let's say, clinical leader, not director or chairman, something which denotes ownership. How do you manage to still be in the trenches along with your team every day, meet patients every day? What motivates you?
See, I'll tell you, you don't need motivation. It's there. Secondly, the easiest work for a doctor is in his own field. So for me, the easiest thing to do is radiology. Look at scans, make a diagnosis, and also, that gets into your blood. You enjoy it. You enjoy making that rare diagnosis. You enjoy talking to someone and alleviating the tension, the stress that a patient may have when you tell him all is normal, or that even though, your doctor suspected that it may be cancer, luckily it is not. It's a separate kind of feeling altogether. And I'm not talking that about empathy. I think that's natural to most doctors. To be able to spend that time to hear someone's problem, that hand on the shoulder. I always say that if someone has come to us for a test or a scan or a blood report or something, they've come because they believe that they will get a good report and a high quality report. But what they will remember 10 years later is that 2 minutes you spent with them trying to explain the report to them.
Yeah.
That is what they'll remember. And that also gives a lot of satisfaction to any doctor, to any person who's in this healthcare field. And that's why, though, I've been forced now to change the title from chief radiologist to chairman. Because they say, how can an organization which is becoming so big not have a chairman? My father used to be chairman, and we lost him 2 years ago, unfortunately. And so the title now says, founder and chairman. They've changed it, but I'm still a radiologist at heart. I still enjoy doing radiology and, like you said, working in the trenches. These are not hard trenches, I tell you. The hard trenches are being a manager, trying to manage the finances or the logistics or the problems that come with running any kind of organization. The bijli not working or some machine going down. Those are the tough parts. Writing the report is the easiest part.
Let's continue from that point in life where a 3-second decision led to you being a or let's say joining a course in radiology, at what point did you realize that you are going to become an incredibly good radiologist?
I don't think I'm an incredibly good radiologist. And I don't think ever you realize, frankly, I'll tell you, one's path to, going higher up in life or success is not related to what you may have done. Of course, you have to do your part, but it's some other force which is charting the course of your destiny. And that's been very true in my case. After doing my MD at PGI Chandigarh, which I believe is the best for postgraduate education in this country, was at that time in 1984 when I joined it, and is still now. I joined the All India Institute as a senior resident in radiology, and then was lucky to get a Rotary International Scholarship to go and do a fellowship in the US.
Okay.
And I went to the MD Anderson Cancer Center, which is the world's largest cancer hospital in Houston, in Texas, in the US. And there, this was a fellowship in MRI. And MRI had just come 6 months earlier at MD Anderson. Today they have probably 15, 20 MRIs in one hospital. And this gave me an opportunity to be in a new, technologically most advanced field of medicine at the real beginning. I mean, the MR had come to MD Anderson in December of 1986. And I was there in July of 1987.
Wow.
So these were the early days, and it was very, very exciting. I got fascinated with MRI, and MD Anderson is, a fantastic place for learning, for academics, for research. Of course, is also amongst the best for treatment. And patients from there come from around the world, from Europe, from Australia, India. Of course, within US also they are referred to MD Anderson. And so I got to learn a lot. And, I had my wife, an 8-month-old son with me, my elder son, when we went to the US. We had a 7-year visa. And this was a 1-year fellowship. During that fellowship, I was able to write some papers which got published and all that. And the hospital wanted me to stay on. In any case, I had the visa. Somehow between my wife and I, we felt that if we stay more than a year,
You won't be able to come back?
then we won't be able to come back.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, it so happened that India's first MRI had got installed in a DRDO lab in Delhi, near Delhi University, called INMAS, the Institute of Nuclear Medicine and Allied Sciences. And I had done this fellowship in MR. And I felt that I should go back. Brilliant opportunity. India's first MRI getting installed in Delhi. I can go and work there. We were all very close to my parents, and we wanted to be back. So we come back, and actually one of the professors at MD Anderson in radiology, he asked me, do radiologists get paid so well back in India that you want to go back? So I said yes, though I didn't tell him that what salary I get in one day here, I won't get in a month there. But came back. And as happens in government, it took 2 years for a vacant position in INMAS of a scientist C, which is like an assistant professor, to be advertised and for the interview to be held. पहले तो advertisement ही नहीं आता था.
Sure.
वो आया तो डेट फिक्स हुआ. The date would keep getting postponed. During that time, I was working at RML Hospital as a senior resident. And now, even if I'd known that 2 years down the line, I will get this job, probably ये कीड़ा नहीं आना था. But I felt that I'm the only trained MRI person in the country.
Yeah.
I'm going to forget everything. So दिमाग में आया कि अपना करना चाहिए. You know, came and spoke to my parents, and at home they said ये पागल हो गया, ये तो करोड़ों की बात करने लग गया. And believe you me, करोड़ तब word मुंह से नहीं निकलता था. Like now we talk 100 crores, 1000 crores.
This was late 80s, right?
This was late 80s. It was actually 89 when this idea started floating in the head. वो लखपतियों का ज़माना था, 1 लाख की लॉटरी निकलती थी.
And you did not come from money or something?
No. My parents, I mean, we were middle class, yeah. Of course, parents looked after us very well. But then to think, मतलब X-ray ultrasound लगाना ही बहुत बड़ी बात थी. Here we are talking about MRI, and there is only one MRI as yet installed in the country. But you know, my father was principal in Hansraj Model School, the first public school of the DAVs, and it's in Punjabi Bagh in Delhi, where a lot of business people's children used to study. So he talked to some of the parents that my son has come back from the US, studied something new, and this is a MRI. That was the time even doctors would call it MIR. You know, it was so early. It used to be a short note in the exam. You know, that was MRI. So he spoke to them, and one of them became ready. And that's how actually the journey for becoming an entrepreneur started. Of course, we had no money to put in the company.
And it was a very high capex thing.
Oh yes, it was 2.5 crores at that time.
In those days.
You know, and so you know, I borrowed money from my uncles. I have 5 mamas who live in the US, and 4 of them put in $10,000 each, and $40,000 they sent to me, which was 6,85,000 rupees. And that's how we started. That got me a 45% stake in this company. And for want of, you know, imagination, the company was named MRI Scans Private Limited.
Okay.
We couldn't think of any other name. And this is now 1990. And we have to get a loan. Loan कौन देगा? वो मिल ही नहीं सकता. करोड़ों का लोन, एक 29 साल का लड़का
बिना collateral
जिसके कोई बिजनेस की बैकग्राउंड नहीं है, एंड समवन हु इज इन बिजनेस बट यू नो हैज नो हेल्थ केयर बैकग्राउंड एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. सो वी वेंट टू ICICI बैंक एंड द लोन इज टर्न डाउन. Okay. And there was this young manager in the bank who I used to interact with, my age, 28, 29, who, Murali was his name, and he says, Doc, loan has been refused, but our chairman is visiting soon. He's coming in the next few days. If you want, I can get you 5 minutes with him. If you can convince him, then maybe it can be done. So Mr. Wagul was the chairman of ICICI Bank at that time. He expired a few months ago. We lost him. The country lost him. And so I get this appointment with him. I go and meet him. The 5 minutes becomes 30 minutes. And by the end of it, he says, young man, I'm convinced. We will give you the loan, but we can't take all the risk. This is very new technology. So you have to bring in another institution. And so, you know, I mean, this was a green light that we got. And just imagine at that time, chairman of ICICI doesn't want to take full risk for a 2.5 crore loan. So you can imagine what crore meant at that time. So then we went to IFCI, and God plays a role, you know. The IFCI officers' colony was near my father's school.
Okay.
And so a lot of the managers' children used to study there. So through them, we met the ICICI chairman, Mr. Davar, used to be chairman at that time. And that's how the loan got done. So if you say that, you know, we did great and we achieved so much and this is what we did and this is how it happened and मैं tiger हूँ, मैंने ही सब कर लिया, ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता. You talk to most people and you talk to the biggest of businessmen, there will be incidents in life which, you know, something went wrong. That is what, when you look back 10 years later, that is what went right. तो मुझे नौकरी मिल गया होता एकदम, तो ये कुछ नहीं होना था. I would have been director of INMAS by, I would have retired by now actually. So now the loan is done. We took up a place at Pusa Road in Delhi for setting up. The place is nearly done. And now I go to get the letter of credit established, LC. मेरे को तो LC क्या होता है यही नहीं पता था. So I go there and go to the foreign exchange branch of ICICI, which was also in Connaught Place. And the manager says, Doc, the LC can't be done. LC नहीं खुल सकती. I said, why? We've done all the prerequisites. We've fulfilled them. He says, there's no foreign exchange in the country. So this is the time in 1990 when gold went out of the country and the country had, you know, only two lines of credit. One was ADB, Asian Development Bank, and the other was KfW from Germany. Both were meant for the manufacturing sector, but were being also used by the service sector, tourism, hotels, hospitals, medical. So we are up against a wall. जगह बना ली, पैसे सब लग गए. Now LC नहीं खुल रहा है. That's where my partner, my father's friend, he was steadfast. He says, कोई बात नहीं है, हम देखेंगे, we'll wait. And the you know, owner of the place which we had rented, he also said, मैं rent बाद में ले लूँगा. You know, there are very, very good people in life. And so we waited for nearly 2 years before, you know, 91, then that whole opening up happened. And in December of 1991, so 1 year and 9 months, we waited. Then the LC got established. During this time, that interview for INMAS had happened.
Okay.
I had been selected. And for 2 years, I worked in INMAS while we waited for the MRI scanner to come in. So in March of 1992, we started the MRI scanner. I resigned from INMAS and we started. And that's how the whole thing happened. And to tell you, you know, no one can imagine what was the rate of interest at which this loan was given to us. I mean, I ask in, you know, meetings and conferences and these sessions where I say, take a wild guess. Kya loan ka interest? You take a wild guess.
18-20%?
27%.
Wow.
Was the rate of interest.
Wow.
And do you know what was the customs duty that was charged on these machines when India had 2-3?
40-50%?
204%.
Wow.
Or 205%.
That's very prohibitive.
But you could go to the government, say, hum itna free karenge, and get a duty exemption. So those were difficult times. But after the economy opened up, you know, things changed and they've changed for the better. You're seeing the explosion that has happened in the healthcare sector. And so in March 1992, we started with the MRI scanner. And this was still 2 years before All India Institute got its MRI. Wow. So you can imagine how crazy we were to even think of doing it. And during those first few years, we used to cater to the whole of Upper India. Upper India, I say, because it's not just North India.
Sure.
You know, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, Bengal, Northeast, UP, Punjab, Haryana, J&K, and of course the
कहीं भी
Delhi.
नहीं था कुछ.
कहीं भी नहीं था. You know, PGI Chandigarh, my alma mater, got its MRI in 1998.
Wow.
You know, and so, you know, but had I got that job, this would not have happened. So also I tell youngsters when they feel despondent, depressed, कि ये ठीक नहीं हुआ, वो गलत हो गया, that you know, there's some force above. Call it God, call it whatever you will. Who knows what is better for you, and who's shaping your destiny. Of course, you have to play your part. आप ये कहो कि मैं घर ही बैठ जाऊँ और सब ठीक हो जाएगा, तो वो नहीं होने वाला है. And that's how we started.
Very interesting. Sir, you were in a very, I would say, respectable and high-paying job in the US. In those days, it used to be the American dream of a better life, because अब तो ठीक है, India में भी there are plenty of opportunities, but उस ज़माने में very few opportunities. You are already there, well settled. Coming from US to the India, venturing into something so risky and things not often going well, you also hit a fair amount of roadblock. Were there moments of doubt कि जहाँ पे आपको pangs आते थे कि लगा कि गलती कर दी? And how
मेरे को ये कभी नहीं आया. Probably because we stayed only 1 year. अगर हम 7 साल के बाद आए होते तो शायद ये होता कि because then you start developing roots, you start doing better and better. I had gone as a fellow, and that's what I was.
Less to forego.
So of course the dream, the US dream during those days was very much on. In fact, visa ही नहीं मिलता था because no one would come back. You know, but you know, I'll tell you, I had my wife and son with me. We were in a great institution. We used to live in university housing, which was, you know, 10 minutes from the campus, from the hospital. I even had my grandparents in Houston. I had 3 of my mamas in Houston. Made some very good friends. But still, I'll tell you, we used to feel loneliness. वो घर की याद आती थी. And somehow, you know, there was, it's with what intent you go. If you go with the intent कि मैंने वापस आना है, तो आप वापस most likely आ जाओगे. जैसे आज के बच्चे तो आ ही रहे. If you go with the intent to make it there, then of course there's no coming back, unless you know you after a few years feel ki, you know, I don't like it here, which happens rarely. But we always wanted to come back, and so there was never this. The doubt was only ki, you know, वो job नहीं मिली. You know, at that time everyone only wanted a job. It's not like the last 10-15 years where you have startups and all of that. And another thing I want to say, at that time as a doctor, you know, when people will say कि, you know, he's a radiologist, he's a doctor, but he's gotten into business, businessman बन गया है, वो बड़ा दुख सा होता था. Businessman was a,
that's frowned upon.
Was not a very, you know, respected word at that time, and one used to feel bad. Today you have such a brilliant name for the same, startup. You know, which is so we were one of the startups of that time. Though we were called a business, which actually it is. But and now, luckily, in this country, our you know, respect for businessmen has increased, because ultimately they are the ones who are you know, taking the country to where it is going, the high trajectory. They are the ones who are creating jobs, creating you know, infrastructure and so on and so forth. So that also has been a change that one has seen, and even the governments respect businesses now, unlike in the past when they were frowned upon or looked down upon as you know.
And sir, once the decision to settle in India eventually was taken, even within India, as people say that the path of an entrepreneur is full of roadblocks. आपके मतलब उस ज़माने में तो और because now with all the capital available, support available, both from government, investors, even now it's super difficult. आपके केस में corporate hospitals भी आने लग गए थे. They were also mushrooming.
They came later. Actually, C.A.R.I.N.G Institute had come, but it was not a corporate hospital. It was a trust hospital. Apollo in Delhi, I think, came in '95, but Dr. Reddy of Apollo had started Apollo in Chennai in '84. C.A.R.I.N.G Institute started in '88, which Dr. Naresh Trehan was the person who started it. And these were bringing in that ethos of quality private healthcare, which till now was hardly there. There were trust hospitals in Mumbai, in Delhi. Gangaram Hospital was here in Delhi. There were, Bombay Hospital in Mumbai. But it's in the late 90s and then in the early 2000s that corporate hospitals really started coming up.
In India, there were, on one hand, there were these institutions like PGMIR, AIMS, RML, and these corporate hospitals were also mushrooming. यहाँ पे you were hitting fair amount of roadblocks. कभी ऐसा नहीं लगा कि you could have had a very decent life just for working as, they would have ran over each other to get somebody like you?
No. At that time, these hospitals also were not thinking of an MRI.
Okay. It was too ahead of its time.
I got caught in that, should I say, silos of an MRI because I'd done that fellowship, and so I could not think beyond MRI. At that time, no one would have thought that thousands of MRI machines will be installed in this country.
Yeah.
In 1989, in our annual conference of radiology, which was held in, Taj Krishna in Hyderabad at that time, some of the top radiologists of India had got together and they felt in 1989 that India needs 12 MRI scanners. Now there are 3 MRI scanners in this very building where we are sitting in our center. So, those were very, very early years. So even large hospitals were not thinking. Corporate hospitals or a Bombay hospital or a Jaslok hospital were, frankly, it's only later in the 90s that, once, probably we were the 6th or 7th MRI center in the country. And this is despite a 2-year, wait. So, frankly, that thought never entered because 89 में ये कीड़ा घुस गया, फिर वो काम करने लगे. Then, my father's friend, whom I used to call uncle, he became a partner, and then we were stuck in it.
So, sir, from that first MRI machine, and you were called MRI scans till today, why don't you give us a context?
We were actually called at that time, the company name was one. But at that time, the thought used to be that research ka naam aana chahiye in your center or whatever. So we were called GMR Institute of Imaging and Research.
Okay.
GMR had nothing to do with Mr. GM Rao of GMR as we see today. G was my partner's surname.
Okay.
M was mine, Mahajan, and R was for resonance. And it sounded nice, GMR sounded nice. And so this was our name under which we started.
Wow.
And the company, the holding company was MRI Scans Private Limited.
So from there to today, why don't you give some context to our viewers about how does the holding company and various segments within the company look like? What's the scale and complexity of the operations that you run today?
See, it was in the year 99 that, we formed this company, Mahajan Imaging Private Limited, under which our current centers run. And again, you can see we are not very imaginative, so it's Mahajan Imaging Private Limited. And we are now Mahajan Imaging and Labs. We run 11 centers, high-end diagnostic centers. In the Delhi NCR region, 10 here and 1 which is in Jaipur. We have standalone centers which are independent of any hospital
Not inside
or
a
any
hospital.
institution, not inside hospitals. 6 of our centers are standalone. Then we are in private hospitals. We are in Gangaram Hospital since 25 years, running the Department of Nuclear Medicine and PET-CT. We are in Fortis Hospital at Vasant Kunj since 18 years, running the department there. And we are in PSRI Hospital, which is again a multi-speciality hospital in Delhi, running the radiology there since 8 years. We are also running a public-private partnership in Safdarjung Hospital in the Sports Injury Center since 14 years. This is probably the longest running PPP in the country. And there also we do MRI, CT, X-ray and all of that within Sports Injury Center. So really, if you ask me, we straddle the entire healthcare delivery ecosystem with standalone diagnostics, diagnostics within hospitals, private hospitals, and diagnostics within public hospitals. And within these hospitals, we own the equipment, and we also, it is our people who run the department. So it's been a good experience doing this. We had concentrated mostly on radiology and nuclear medicine for many long years, till we actually set up about 5 years ago a genomics lab with next-gen sequencing equipment from Illumina, which is the world's best NGS company, which does genome sequencing for cancer, for other ailments, heart disease, looking at genetic risk of cancer in the population at large. And also, this is called predictive medicine. And then precision medicine, where tumor cells themselves are sent for genome sequencing, and we see the mutation within those cells, and based on that you give targeted therapy for cancer, which is called precision medicine. So this genomics we set up about 5 years ago, and during COVID we did thousands and thousands of RT-PCR tests, since that is also a molecular test, and we did have RT-PCR machines with us in our genomics lab. And about 3 years ago, we started a full-fledged pathology lab where we do all the blood tests, microbiology tests, all the other, So since about 4-5 years, I believe the medical diagnostics, which is currently working in silos. You have radiology, you have nuclear medicine, you have PET-CT, you have pathology, you have microbiology, biochemistry, you have genomics, you have metabolomics, proteomics, so many new fields coming, but everyone runs in silos. The world today is coming around to the fact that all these have to be integrated. The integrated diagnostics is the new buzzword, and I've been saying this for about 4-5 years. And 3 years ago, we set up India's first integrated diagnostic center, where we are sitting today in South Delhi. And we changed our name from Mahajan Imaging to Mahajan Imaging and Labs.
Okay.
So that, people realize for nearly 28-29 years, we were just doing only radiology and nuclear medicine, imaging. and we were called Mahajan Imaging. So we added "and" labs to let people at large know. We hardly advertise. So, and we are very poor in social media, which I think needs to be reformed. But so this is our foray into integrated diagnostics, because the treating doctor sitting in his OPD, sitting in his clinic, needs a comprehensive diagnosis and not a set of tests. And more tests are coming. The bouquet of tests is increasing. The data is humongous. And so for a clinician sitting in his clinic, to try to make good sense of all this data can be very daunting. It is also very time consuming. So I do believe we will have this Department of Integrated Diagnostics where the silos will be broken. Here they will continue working as they do, but there'll be a middle layer which will come between the clinician and these diagnostic departments, called the Department of Integrated Diagnostic, and you will have a diagnostician, for want of a better word, an integrated diagnostician, who would be able to digest all this information and give a final result to the treating doctor, so that he doesn't have to spend so much time, effort, energy into making sense of the hundreds of tests that are available, thousands maybe that are available now. So in this part of the world, this is the first integrated diagnostic center where we do everything from hemoglobin to next-gen sequencing, and from X-ray to PET CT, and everything in between under one roof. And I see this as the future going forward. Us other centers also are now going to be integrated centers of diagnostics going forward.
Okay, so that you see as a key trend. Have you already seen parallels in other countries of the, let's say, diagnostic industry moving towards this?
Yes, actually, it was about 5 years ago, that this trend really started. Mm-hmm. So we are running, concurrently with other parts of the world. Healthcare in India is second to none. Technology availability in India is second to none. At times today, we are able to get technology earlier, because whosoever is buying at that point of time gets the best that there is. And so this trend is there across the world. Everyone is facing the same challenges of the increased data, the increased bouquet of tests, the newer and newer tests that are coming in, which actually are changing the way we practice, which are not only, it's not just test for test's sake. This is the era of evidence-based medicine. And so more the evidence, more targeted the treatment, because more precise the diagnosis. So this trend is there across the world, and I think in the next 5 to 7 years, you will see that this will become mainstream. Of course, with increasing availability of data, also comes the fact as to how to, even for an integrated diagnostician to be able to make sense of so many tests would take a long time, effort. And so is he going to be, looking at 10 cases a day? Would it even be, won't it increase costs of the healthcare system? Technology, as we've seen, has increased costs. But we can't do without technology, because it's improving the outcomes. When we started at independence in this country, life expectancy was 32 years. Today we sit at 71 years and going up every year. That's been all due to the availability of technology, apart from the talent pool that's available in this country. And so that is where I do believe that artificial intelligence is going to help us in making sense much more quickly, much more accurately, in a much more productive manner. and in a much more cheaper manner to be able to use artificial intelligence at the silos level also, help the radiologist improve his diagnostic accuracy, improve turnaround times, improve productivity. Today, if I'm able to report 30, 35 scans, we envisage a world where I will do 100 and dream of a world where I may be able to do 500. Something which happened in pathology, where, again, a pathologist used to report 40, 50 tests, whereas today they sign out thousands, because we have confidence in the controls that have been built in the system, and because technology plays such a major role that we never doubt the report from coming from good quality centers. So here again, I do believe that AI is going to be a game changer, just as in any walk of life.
Sure.
Similarly, also in diagnostics, not only in diagnostics, but also in therapeutics, in treatment. Probably clinicians sitting in their clinics will also feed in a few buzzwords and be able to get back what is the latest, what are the possibilities. So we hope that AI will work as an assistant for doctors, radiologists, pathologists. Genome sequencing won't happen without AI. There's so much data, and also improve the skill set and of the doctors sitting in their clinics, help them as well, so that ultimately the patient, who is at the center of this whole piece of technology, of doctor skills, of nursing, of technology, technologists, of other ancillary healthcare workers, ultimately we are all working to give the patient a better clinical outcome with the fewest of side effects that are possible, and improve quality of life, improve longevity, and give longevity with better quality of life, to be able to pick up disease early rather than late, to be able to prevent disease, the preventive medicine, predictive medicine. These are all where diagnostics is already playing a major role, and will go forward in the years to come, play a much more important role. And I do believe it will also play an important role in drug discovery, where using AI, if we are able to predict that such and such molecule is not going to work very well, if we are able to predict that, or if we are able to, generally, it takes about 10 years for a molecule from the beginning to actually come into clinical use. At the very quickest, it's 10 years. It may even be 15, 20 years. With AI, we hope that if that time frame can be shortened, and it seems that it can, because of AI inputs that are there, if you are, and it costs $1 billion to bring one molecule to market. So if it can be done in 2, 3, 4 years lesser, not only will it come quicker into clinical use and benefit patients, but also the amount of money spent on bringing it to market will go down and will benefit. So there are multiple ways. I, for one, see only positives of AI use in healthcare, provided we are able to control it, provided we don't let it go berserk, we don't let it, we will have to develop confidence in it by validation, by testing, by fine-tuning, by monitoring the use of AI over the years. And frankly, we've been working in AI in Mahajan Imaging and Labs for the last 8 years.
I also wanted to talk about the new initiatives that you are incubating, and
Yeah.
I believe Dr. Vidur is leading that.
Yeah,
The AI
yeah.
the AI stack, which is going to make these machines smarter.
Yeah.
Why don't you educate about that, sir?
So let me tell you, we are speaking of my elder son, Vidur, and he's a physician who went to C.A.R.I.N.G hospital in Bombay through the All India CBSC, got MBBS. And after that, we wanted him to be a radiologist. Ab kar liya MBBS to radiology karega. So he got into radiology, but came and said, here I got in. I'm not going to be doing it. I want to do an MBA.
Okay.
So we tried to reason with him that, अब ये मिली है, ये कर लो, उसके बाद MBA करना. But he said, no, these 3 years will count as education, whereas I need the work X for these 3 years. So he worked with us at Mahajan Imaging during those 3 years. Then he was lucky, he got into Wharton for his MBA. And in 2016, he came back. And we had been, delving in research over the years, but it was in a very unstructured, haphazard manner. We would never say no to anyone. But there was no system to the research we were doing. In 2016 is also the time when Geoffrey Hinton, Dr. Geoffrey Hinton, actually developed deep learning. And that has changed the way AI has developed in all walks of life, but equally so in healthcare. And since he had come from Wharton, he had these connects across the world, and with the connects that we had as radiologists, we started working with researchers and developers across the world and in India, helping them make AI algorithms. And so that's how we got into AI. And basically, to begin with, as a research enterprise, and our group, which was called C.A.R.I.N.G, Center for Advanced Research in Imaging, Neurosciences and Genomics, and C.A.R.I.N.G is our research division, which still exists within Mahajan Imaging and Labs, and is now run by my younger son, and we'll come to that.
Is he a radiologist
Kabir.
as well?
No, Kabir is not a doctor.
Okay.
But we'll come to him later. I'll lose track otherwise. So Vidur started this, and you'll be, and I'm sure the viewers will be happy and maybe surprised to know that the first paper ever to be published in the Lancet on AI came from India, came from our group along with our collaborators, Cure.ai, which is in Mumbai. And then they wrote up papers on validation. They coined the term algorithmic audit, that before using an algorithm, it needs to be audited, and after use, during use, it needs to be audited, and how to do it. They talked about clinical explainability failure, why algorithms fail. In fact, Vidur even wrote up a paper which was published in the American Journal of Radiology, that's in 2019, on how should AI developers go about trying to get US FDA approval for their algorithms. And so all this work was going on, and we were helping, developers from across the country, across the world, US, South Korea, India, Africa, Israel. Israel is where the thing really started. And we were building small tools as, things are there. And a small 5-6 person group got formed, which was, we were making our own algorithms, and we made some good ones, which we, showcased at the Radiology Society of North America meeting in Chicago, as well as in European Congress in Vienna. But it started purely as research. We were, feeling very good about it, something more than just bread and butter imaging. It was exciting work. And then, over time, the group realized that, there are hundreds of developers making AI algorithms. There are large companies, the GE, Siemens, Philips of the world. There are the Googles and the IBMs making all these algorithms. And this, I'm talking 2018-19. Hundreds being developed, nothing being used in clinical practice. So that's when Vidur actually decided that let us become the middle layer to take AI from the bench to the clinic, because we also realized that these were all niche applications that were, some for chest X-ray, some for head CT, some for MRI, some for fracture. So niche things. And we realized that at the very least, the radiology department would be using 250 or 300 of them in the years to come. So is a hospital going to talk to 100, 150 developers? No way. And these small developers, small startups, how will they approach these large, centers of hospitals, academic centers where this can be used, or diagnostic chains? So what was envisaged from the work that had already been done, that on one side we would become a marketplace for AI, so that on our platform, and so they actually suggested in 2019 that AI in healthcare would be delivered through a platform approach, because multiple AI algorithms are to be used. And so also at that time, every developer was coming with his own dabba, his own wire, I'm putting it very crudely, and his own monitor, and saying, use me. How many wires are going to go into IT system, or how many monitors is a doctor going to look at? We are used to looking at 2 or maximum of 3, and that's how. So I told these guys, the way a radiologist reports is not going to change. So you have to think of that. And so they suggested this platform approach where you have one wire in a hospital PACS or a hospital information system. And through that wire, the entire world of AI opens up. So it became a marketplace on this side. And today I think there are more than 140 AI algorithms that are available on this. And it's actually got incubated in Mahajan imaging as C.A.R.I.N.G. And then in 2021, it became a separate entity called Carpal.ai. Carpal stands for C.A.R.I.N.G. Analytics Platform. Carpal.ai. Carpal are also these bones, so it's very easy for doctors to remember. And it became a US registered entity in 21 with a subsidiary here in India. This was something that they built in India for the world.
Wow.
And this is 2018-19. The buzzword now is Make in India for the world. And they actually did it. And this now, like I said, has 140 plus algorithms. It has also inbuilt validation, pre-deployment testing, fine-tuning of algorithms, sensitivity, specificity, then bias estimation, and feedback to the developer.
Wow.
And goes in a absolutely open-ended manner into any picture archival systems which are used in hospitals, PACS systems, or any hospital information system, or your laptop for that matter, if that's what is required. And also, they built a universal viewer which opens in the same monitor which the radiologist is seeing. And the radiologist then, once a AI input comes in, a report comes in, the radiologist has the choice of accepting or rejecting or modifying and then sending it. So, since it was incubated in a radiology center and predominantly with radiology inputs, I think they've been able to build something which is unique, which is the first of its kind in the world, and which also in May of this year became the first AI platform to get US FDA.
Wow.
And last month also got CE marked. So it's the only AI platform which has either, there's no other platform which is even US FDA or CE marked. So this is first, and it has come out of India. It's been built by Indian engineers, Indian data scientists, Indian radiologists, Indian pathologists, Indian MBAs.
Amazing.
And currently it runs at Harvard, Stanford, Thomas Jefferson, Emory, Yale, University Hospitals, Cleveland. It's these are the academic institutions. Radiology Partners is the largest radiology chain of the US. Mm-hmm. They use it. It's used by two large radiology chains of Brazil. It's used by the largest radiology chains in Australia, and the Singapore government uses it for their own development as well as in their public hospitals. These were the 4 countries that they focused on to begin with. It also now has got installed at the All India Institute in Delhi, where hopefully they'll be able to play their own role. It also has tools within it which help AI developers develop AI algorithms, and so it's pretty comprehensive. Wow. And the startup is doing well, and we hope that it will continue to do well as we go forward, because these kids have been actually thought leaders in this field of AI validation and deployment.
Wow, that's amazing. What are some other new ideas that you are incubating as a part of C.A.R.I.N.G, sir?
See, as part of C.A.R.I.N.G, we also, my younger son Kabir, who in school said, I'll not take science, nahi to main doctor ban jaunga. So he took commerce, then went to SRCC, did his BCom honors from there, and then worked with us for 4 years, got his WorkX, then went to Barcelona, to ESA, to do his MBA. And after that worked in a startup in Spain, in Valencia, which was again into AI for oncology and radiology. Okay. So, it was something we were doing here, so we said it's great, he's getting experience there. And this startup called Kibim was actually housed in a 1,000-bed public hospital of Spain in Valencia. Okay. So that company is doing very well. He came back about 2.5 years ago because they were expecting a child, and they said, let's go back to India after 6 years. And since then joined back. Vidur, the elder one, since Carpal became an independent entity, he is now completely into that. He has no time for Mahajan imaging because all his time is taken up there. And Kabir then, brought in an imaging CRO from having worked on strategy for an AI company there, interacting with a lot of pharmaceutical companies in Spain and in Europe and in the US. So now within Mahajan Imaging, C.A.R.I.N.G looks after research, which we do, and we do a lot of research in functional MRI, and I'll talk about that later. But also, interacting with pharmaceutical companies, medtech companies, device manufacturing companies. As a CRO, where we do radiology and blood and all that, where it is, but also for multi-center trials, which may be in different parts of the country or even abroad, working as the central agency, helping put everything together. So that also is a startup which is being incubated in Mahajan Imaging, and C.A.R.I.N.G on its part is into a lot of pure research, a lot of applied research. We work with IIT, we work with the All India Institute, we work with the Max Planck Institute in Europe, we work with MIT out of Cambridge, and the MIT research that we've been doing has been a game changer. It's a project which has been given the name of Project Prakash, and this has been on for 15 years now. And this is a professor out of Cambridge, out of MIT, who is from Delhi, IIT Delhi, then did a PhD from MIT, and now is a professor there, who actually started working on congenitally blind children. Conventional wisdom in the early 2000s in neurosciences was that if a child has been born blind and reaches 6-7 years of age, then there is no point correcting the blindness, because the eye will see, the brain will not. And I'm putting it very, very crudely, but this was that the brain is not plastic enough. He actually read a news item of a lady in Ahmedabad, who was 16, 17 years old or even older, I forget now. Her vision being corrected, and she started seeing. Oh. So he decided to explore this aspect in a very scientific manner and came to us. We aligned with them. This was probably around 2008-9, and the project is still ongoing, where congenitally blind kids, and these were mostly kids who had congenital cataracts. We did the MRI and functional MRI of the brain before vision correction. Then the vision was corrected, and we would do functional MRI at day 1, day 3, day 7, day 28, 3 months, 6 months. And we've been able to show first time in vivo how visual tracts actually develop in the brain. 2 people in the 1980s actually got a Nobel Prize for the hypotheses of what is called the critical period. The same thing, that beyond the critical period, vision won't come back. What Dr. Sinha has done is he's debunked that. Wow. And even a 25-year-old is able to see. And so that has changed the outlook to vision and brain plasticity. And in our small way, we've been able to, show how what we believe are tracts develop in the brain, because sequential scans, both imaging as well as functional MRI scans, have been done. And it's a game changer. And they are using this data for something which I think humanity at large is going to benefit in many, many ways. In fact, Pawan Sinha, I tell him, your name, you'll also get a Nobel Prize. So, abhi photo खिंचा लेते हैं तुम्हारे साथ, बाद में तो तुम मिलोगे ही नहीं. But a very, very down-to-earth, fantastic scientist and a dear friend. And the other functional MRI test, stuff that we've done more recently has been with IIT Delhi, where we studied the effects of Yoga Nidra on brain. You know, over thousands of years, Yoga Nidra has been practiced in this country, and it is believed that you go into a position which is akin to sleep, even though during Yoga Nidra you are aware, awake, and following instructions. So, along with IIT Delhi, we set about trying to find scientific proof, scientific basis for this. And this got published about 4-5 months ago in Nature. And you know, thanks to IIT, they did brilliant work. We, of course, did the functional MRI here in our center. And there were 30 practitioners of Yoga Nidra who were included, and 31 novices who did not practice Yoga Nidra. And Yoga Nidra, when you do, it is in the lying down supine position, which is a position which we put people in the MRI magnet. And so these people were actually practicing Yoga Nidra in the MRI.
Wow.
And the results were, you know, fantastic. One, we could show that there was a major difference between practitioners of Yoga Nidra in their brain activity and the novices. And in practitioners of Yoga Nidra, we could show that there was much lower brain activity and much lower connectivity across brain areas, similar to what you get during sleep. So, for the first time, through this experiment, we were able to prove that Yoga Nidra, which we've been saying for thousands of years, its effect is now scientifically proved. That what our rishis and sages used to say and what our yoga teachers say is actually true and scientifically proved. And we hope to do more and more of this. You know, this is something which is energizing. Wow. This is something which is so exciting. You know, more than, you know, day-to-day imaging and blood tests and all of that. Those are also very, very important. But being able to find scientific basis for some of what we believe in this country to be true is also equally important, so that one, the skeptics start believing that this is true, and two, if this is, see, Yoga Nidra reduces your blood pressure, it reduces tension, it reduces mental, it improves mental well-being, you can do with shorter length of sleep, and you know, heart disease, stroke, all those prevalence is said to go down, and that's been shown. And so, if we scientifically are able to prove something like this, then probably more and more people will be willing to take it up and follow it. And you know, yoga, which has come into its own, and this paper actually, I think, got published on 21st of June, which is World Yoga Day. You know, we would all, India would be doing a service to the entire world.
So some of these research and projects that you're working on as a part of C.A.R.I.N.G. Now, this may not result into an immediate economic benefit for
For 15 years, we've been actually, you know, when he came, Dr. Sinha, he said that, Dr. Mahajan, I don't have any funding, okay, but this is what it is, this is what I believe, this is my hypothesis, and this is that one example of this girl who, as an adult, started seeing. So I said, we don't want money. This is so exciting for us to be able to work with MIT, sitting here in this country. And at that time, we started on an MRI which was actually installed in a house, and we used to live on the top. So I said, mere ghar mein ye kaam hoega. So After that, they got funded, all of that. And they've been wanting to pay. But we've said, no, we don't want money because we've, enjoyed doing it so much. And till date, we do it all free. However, having said that, in many of the projects, there's funding available. Like the government of India would fund a project in IIT, and we would get some funding for the imaging that we do. And so most of this is not altruistic. Much of it is funded, and over the years, I think the government of India, through BIRAC, through METI, through other grants are given for doing this kind of research, and that is very welcome. And what we have tried to show that the private sector is also interested and also has the capability. And so research should not just be restricted to the public sector or to government institutions. We can work in tandem. We showed it during COVID. Private and public worked so closely together. And similarly, we need to work. The private sector also needs to work closely with our educational institutions. Something that you talked about, which is, we can help the startups. Yeah. We can help these youngsters in the IITs and other engineering colleges, do at least, so many times we find that a youngster has worked, done brilliant work, come up with a solution. Only thing is now he's trying to see which problem does it solve.
Yeah.
So if industry and, academia could interact at a closer level, then let these, youngsters, let these startups solve the problems that are there, which then will make the startup much more viable, the product that you make much more acceptable and usable than something which you make because you felt, and you wanted to do it and you did it. But then when you come back, the industry is saying कि यार इसका हमें कोई फायदा नहीं.
Correct. So amazing, sir. So your story, your vision is truly inspiring, and I'm sure my viewers are also as inspired as I am. Before we conclude, I have one final question for you. To your children, Vidur, Kabir, and to younger people watching the show, what is, of course, we have to chart our own path, but what is that one lesson that you would tell us that life has taught you over the years?
See, I would say never say never. Because any time you fail in something, you fail only if you stop. If you continue on the path, or maybe a separate path, a different path, somewhere success is waiting for you. And it's very natural to feel despondent, to be depressed when something doesn't work out. But, the crops also, you get the tastiest fruit and the tastiest grain when it's been through some storms. And so this is God's way of testing your will, your willpower. And so don't give up. Second, I would say be honest to yourself, to your colleagues, to those whom you work for or work with. Also be kind to those, because once you start ascending the ladder, there will be those below you. Let grass grow under your feet. Don't be insecure कि ये मेरी नौकरी ले लेगा या ये मेरी पोजीशन ले लेगा या ये कुछ बना लेगा. वो जो भी बनाएगा वो आपसे सीख के ही बनाया है, सो आपको वो ऊपर ही उठाएगा. So don't be insecure. And finally, I would say collaborate. Collaborate within your organization, collaborate with different organizations, We wouldn't have been here if we hadn't collaborated with, 50, 70, 100 other startups and large companies and educational institutions. And also don't be possessive about your data. That I've seen. कि ये इसको यूज करके कुछ बना लेगा. I think that's the wrong attitude. Ultimately, sharing your data and be involved with that. Don't feel ये मेरा है. I mean, we say in India 1.4 billion population, and we have tons of data. But when you go around finding it,
there's none. Yeah,
there's very little which is systematically placed. It's all unstructured. It's all disjointed. The X-rays don't speak to the reports. The X-rays won't speak to this, that, everything. So at least when you're starting, put your data in a structured format so that if not someone else, at least you are able to use it. And also don't be greedy and possessive about your data, because if 5 of you could share it, that's that much more. And also, especially in the field of AI, we need as heterogeneous data as possible, as much coming from different parts. AI algorithm which works in All India Institute may not work in Safjung Hospital, which is across the street. Algorithm in Bihar may not work as well as an algorithm, or something made in the US will not work as well. So you need very heterogeneous data coming from different machines, coming from different kind of racial and ethnic people. So all of that. So if on your own data, if you make an algorithm, it'll work well in your hospital, in your institution. It'll not work well outside. So this is something I think sharing is also very, very important, and working together. Of course, we all will want to do better than the next. We all have our own ambitions, which is fine. But ultimately, a collaborative effort, at times can be better. And I think today, if you have an idea, work with like-minded people, work with industry if you're in academia, and together I think we can solve a lot of the problems. And finally, I'll say problems for Indian healthcare problems will only be solved by Indians in India. Don't expect someone sitting in the West to solve a problem which is there in our rural areas. हमें ही करना पड़ेगा. And for that, again, we have to learn from each other. 2 और 2 22 भी हो सकते हैं, 11 भी हो सकते हैं, और वो 4 भी हैं, और मे बी वो 0 भी हो सकते हैं. It all depends on your attitude. But as kids we were taught, try again. That is true. And finally also, one more thing, prevention is better than cure. Again, we were taught in school. And so for each of those who are watching, do look at your own preventive healthcare. If you're very young, even then it's important to know आपका cholesterol high है कि नहीं, आपको diabetes तो नहीं है, आपका blood pressure high तो नहीं है. थोड़ा बहुत तो कुछ कर लो. 15-20 साल में it's important. Of course, if you're 20-25, एक बार छोटा मोटा ही कुछ करा लो. Basic things. And for your parents, for your grandparents, it's very, very important, because prevention is better than cure. Prevention, being able to catch a disease early, catch cancer stage 1 or 2, it's a cure. Catch it in stage 3 and 4, it's a lot of suffering and it'll never be a cure. You will only be able to control it. Also, finally, prevention is much cheaper than cure.
It's great advice. So it was absolutely an honor to have you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks.